Hi guys, welcome to this DVD Studio Pro tutorial. This is an introductory tutorial to the software with the aim to give you an overview of the layout of the software, give you a quick sort of indication of where the key buttons are, and show you how to perform some key introductory processes within the software, such as adding menus, adding tracks, and adding buttons. The outcome of this tutorial should be that you should be able to then create your own DVD menu, quite a basic menu. So this should be a key starting point. So let's start off by giving you a quick overview of the layout of DVD Studio Pro. I currently have my version laid out in the advanced layouts. Now if yours doesn't look like this, the way to make it do so is click on Window up at the top of the page. Under Configurations, choose Advanced. You'll see from the other layouts, they really do, not really give you much to play with. The advanced layout really is the best one to use because it kind of sets things out in an order that makes things easy to see and easy to understand. So here's how the program's laid out. So across the top here we have all our key buttons. Okay, so here we have an import asset button. Now assets is the term used for the components of our project. So our film, we exported our film from Final Cut Pro. Our film is an asset. We may have some graphics. We may have a picture that we wanted as a menu. The picture is an asset. Okay. Anything that we want to use on our DVD, they're known as assets. We've got a plus menu button or an add menu. We've got an add layered menu, add track, add slideshow, add story, script, and language. Now for the purposes of this tutorial, we're only really going to focus on the menu and add track aspects. At this stage of the learning process, we don't really need to know too much about the stories, scripts, and languages aspects, but they will become clear over the coming weeks. The next set of buttons are all to do with actually finishing and building your disc. So the simulate button actually allows you to simulate what your DVD would look like. So you could click this to get a preview of your DVD. Now it's important to do this just to ensure that the disc works. You know, buttons work, they go to where you want them to go to. There's nothing worse than burning a DVD and then trying it in the DVD player and then realizing it doesn't work, because then you've got to come all the way back here and try and start again. So the next few buttons are burn, build, and format. Now burn is obviously the terminology used for burning a disc. So that's the button we click when we're ready. Everything is done. We've built our disc and everything's ready. We click burn and then that burns onto the disc. Now our build and format buttons, this is what you need to do once you've done all your design, you've created your menus, you've done your buttons, you click build, and what that does is that then builds your disc. It connects everything up and does that for you. You then format it. There's actually a build and format button, so that does all in one go. You need to do this before you click burn. Next to that is this shows you how much of your disk space you've used. So a DVD is 4.7 gigabytes. We've currently used 168 kilobytes of that, so we have plenty of space left here. This window over here, this is a graphical outline of our disk. Now in here we have our menus and our tracks, and we should be able to quite clearly see how things are linked up. So as we start to add content in here, we will begin to see how menus link to tracks and how tracks could link to other tracks and other menus and so on. Beneath that is our assets box, so as we import an asset, either clicking on the button at the top or pressing import down here, our assets will appear within this box. Another way of importing assets is to just simply drag and drop the assets into that box. This is our viewer. Okay, so this window shows what our disk actually looks like, and below that is the timeline sequence on which we have our video tracks and audio tracks, plus some subtitle tracks underneath. You can change the thickness of these tracks by clicking on the little tab below, and as in Final Cut, you can zoom in and zoom out of the track. To the right hand side in this layout we have some templates. Okay, so if you are creating something quick and easy, for example you may be creating a wedding DVD, and there's some wedding template menus in here, so kind of very straightforward. They have buttons on them and places where you can drop in pictures and content, so you can make a personalized wedding menu, or whatever you're wanting to do. They're all a bit, they serve their purpose, they're okay, but it's obviously better to create your own. Along there in this palette you've got various other things as well, so you've got some text options, we've got some shapes, so you can use these shapes for buttons. Obviously you can import your own as well. Audio options, this links with your iTunes library, or maybe podcasts and so on, so that's all in there. You can import directly from those straight in. Any stills, obviously that links with your iPhoto, and any videos from your movie file, so it's all kind of connected up. Below that, this is probably the most important box, this one down here in the bottom corner. So this is our kind of control tab, so whatever we're wanting to do with our DVD, this is where we can kind of set all our controls. Now notice it says menu at the top. Now that is because I currently have menu clicked over here. If I'm wanting to edit one of my tracks, if I click on a track, it now changes to say track. If I click in this grey space, it changes to say disc. So this is where I would create all the kind of setup aspects of my disc, the fundamental aspects. So whether it's going to be a standard definition or a high definition DVD, PAL or NTSC, and so on. Obviously within here you can set your regions too. Okay, so that's the general layout. So if we now have a think about how we actually import assets, and then we'll go through a little bit of a quick demonstration of how to then use those assets to create a basic menu. What you should then be able to do is take that and practice it, and really kind of maybe create something a bit more advanced too. But it is all about planning. The more you understand what it is you want to do, the easier this process becomes. It can be quite complicated if you're trying to do it off the top of your head. So, first of all, we need to name and create our disk. Okay, so if we click in this grey space, make sure this says disk, and let's give our disk a name. So I'm going to call this greatest disk. Underneath that, it says first play, so this is where we can actually decide. We can actually tell the DVD what we want the first play to be. This little icon up here, which is a blue disc with a play icon, that indicates what is going to be the first play, as in when somebody puts the disc into a DVD player, what happens first. So you might, for example, want an ident to play, or maybe an important message, so you might set that to play first. Okay, and we're going to do a standard definition disk in PAL, single layer. We'll make it all regions, there's no reason why not for what we're doing, and we don't need to worry too much about these additional controls. Okay, so let's import some assets. So I'm going to click the import button down here. I've got some files prepared, so I've got some stills and some video footage, which I'm going to import in. So this gives me, okay, a couple of the formats were incompatible, so I won't be able to use some of those. But this gives me a selection of videos, a section of stills, and some audio clips. And to create a menu, let's look at menus first. To create a menu, it really is as simple as dragging something from our assets bin onto our menu button. So let's use this picture here. I'm going to just drag that onto my menu. There we go. Now, for some reason, DVD Studio Pro defaults all new menus and tracks in a 4:3 aspect ratio. So we want this to be 69. So if we click the menu button so that it's highlighted, that will bring up our menu tab here. And under the menu tab there, I can actually change the display mode. I want it to be 69 pan scan and letterbox. Okay, so if I click simulate, you'll see that if we make the display mode 69, that's what our DVD menu currently looks like. So it looks pretty cool, I think. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to look at how to create a button on our menu. Now this really is as simple as in our space here, if we click and drag, we've created a button. And notice how this box down here now says button. We have got various options here, so let's give this button a name. So we're going to call this extra features. We're not going to set the target just yet, that will become clear. Now in terms of what that button is, at the moment there's a button there, but there's nothing in the space. So we can either add a shape, so we could have one of Apple's shapes, so maybe an arrow that points right, something like that. You may not want to use an arrow. You can actually maybe you wanted a bit of video, so you could set one of your assets to be the button, or one of your stills. It's totally kind of up to you. This is if you'd bought your own in. This is how you would set your own button as a still. I'm going to use a shape. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just do a square. Okay, and medium square. Let's put some text in. So this is going to be our extra features. It defaults to appear below the button, but you can then change that to be to the right, above it, in the middle of it, or to the left. So let's put it to the right. I'm going to include the text in the highlight. Okay, so text is there. I just can't see it for some reason. Let's change this shape. I'm not sure quite what's going on there. There's my text. So with the text, you can change aspects of the text by right-clicking on the text when it works and selecting font. And then within there, in your show fonts, you can actually make this the font that you want it to be. So try and find one that's kind of quite relevant to what you're doing. And then obviously the size of the font, you can adjust that. There's all sorts that you can change here. So maybe the colour of the font too. But I think let's keep it black. Okay, at the moment my text is right on the edge of that arrow and I want to move that off, so I'm just going to change down here right at the bottom right hand side the X offset and just move that ever so slightly across there. So I'm not too keen on that arrow actually. Let's make that. There we go. Okay, so I now have a button. I want to have another button that looks exactly the same as that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to have it highlighted like this, and I'm going to edit, copy, and then edit, paste. And that will give me another button. And notice as I drag these around, it actually gives me guidelines here. So if I wanted both my buttons up here, either side of the person's head, which was quite cool actually, it'll make sure that I have that perfectly parallel with the other button. So we're now working with this button. So what we need to do is maybe change the name of this button. So let's call this play film. So we won't worry about the target just yet, but we need to change what the text says. So we'll change that again to say play film. So we now have a menu here. So we've got our play film button, our extra features button. Now, to play our film, let's grab one of these tracks down here. So to make a track, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can, if this is my film here, this is the Raging Bull scene, I could actually just drag this onto a track like so. So that it appears down here. You notice it's put it in there. Alternatively, I could simply just drag it straight onto there. It does exactly the same thing. I want this to be in 16:9, so let's change that display mode there. No, it's actually not quite right. It's going to be in 4:3. Okay. Right, so what I want to do is I want to link the button here to play this track. So this is all you need to do. So make sure, remember, we have all our options. It says currently set on menu, so I want this to say button, so I'm setting the information for the button. So if I click on the button, it'll say there, and then I'll make sure it's the right button, so in play film. I'll set my target, and I want my target to be the track that's called Raging Bull Scene. So target, I have the option to link to other menus, to slideshows, to scripts, but I want to link to a track, and Raging Bull Scene is the only one I have there, and then I'll click on track. That now puts in an arrow from my menu to my disc, to my track. But the arrow is only pointing one way, so what I need to happen is at the end of this film, I want it to go back to my main menu. So what I need to do here is click on my track, so make sure my track is highlighted, and then in the end jump button, have that to go back to the menu, and I want it to be back on the main menu. So this arrow now has two ends to it. So if I now simulate this, we should have, there's my menu, so I've got my two buttons. If I click, at the moment we haven't done anything with extra features, so if I click it, nothing actually happens. But we have set the target for play film, so if I click that, it plays a film. Okay, so let's go back to the menu. There we go. Now, that is, in very basic terms, how you create buttons and how you link buttons to tracks and how you get your track back from a button. You can use this information now to create a DVD menu using whatever you want to do. So your buttons could link to other menus, your buttons could link to other tracks, your track at the end of the track could go to another video rather than going back to a menu. It's totally up to you how you want to design your menu. So what you need to do with the information from this tutorial is have a go at creating a DVD menu. Try to get to grips with the basics. Just start simple, have a still image, create some buttons, have a go at linking those up. But as you get more confident with it, have a go at creating sub-menus, and then maybe within those sub-menus have buttons that go to other menus or back to the main menu. Just think about how you would need to navigate around your DVD disc. One thing to point out actually with the buttons, if you noticed on the simulation here they actually change from black to white. Just the way that is sorted out is when you click on your button, you have your selected highlight here. If you go to colours, okay, so you've got three colours and you can actually change three sets of these. So set one, our normal colour. So when it's not selected, we would have it black. When the mouse is over it, it would be white, and when it's clicked, it would be yellow. So I can change that. I could have it blue, and then when it's clicked, it goes red. So for example, if I click simulate, notice now that when I hover over it, it's now blue, and if I click it, it will go red. Okay, so you can create that to be whatever kind of color palette you like. I thought the white and black looks quite good with the style of the menu, and then maybe when you click it, I don't know, it would look good there. Let's try red. Let's have a look. So click that. Yeah, maybe. That's how you do it anyway. Okay, you can edit that palette. You can change your colours and so on. But anyway, so that's the general overview. So hopefully with this, you can have a go at creating a menu of your own. Have a think about the design, the font for your buttons, where you're going to place your buttons, what content you're going to link to, and really get creative with how you play about with it. But what we'll do next time is we'll look at a few more advanced features within DVD Studio Pro. But see how you get on with this so far. Thank you. Bye.